Welcome back. We are doing another episode of Salt Air. Get excited. I am your host, Janae Andrus, and Salt Community Manager. And I'm not here alone. I'm here with the one, the only, the creator of Salt, Thomas Hatch.
Hello.
What's up, Tom?
So far, so good.
Awesome. Okay, so every week we hang out and we get granular on Salt. And if you don't want to miss one, please subscribe below. Now this week, I know we get granular on Salt at Salt Air, but we're going to get granular on something a little bit different. Very related, but not quite exactly salt. We're talking about pop. Right, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay, it's going to be awesome. So we've talked previously about plugin-oriented programming. And you might think that that is pop, but if you watch the episode, you know it's not. So we're going to dive in and get, dare I say, get popping on pop. I can't believe I just said that. I said that.
We're going to get all popped up.
Great. All right. All right, Tom, talk to us about pop.
Okay. So pop is an implementation of plugin-oriented programming built in Python. So it allows you to use the plugin-oriented programming paradigm with the Python programming language. Now, pop is used in literally all of the software that is created and maintained by SaltStack except Salt. So pop is the foundation of our enterprise software. Pop is at the foundation of our SecOps products. Pop is at the foundation of all of the newer open source projects. So for instance, it's at the center of Item and Heist, and perceive that this will continue to be the case. So it's proven itself in quite a few applications. And so it's something, again, that we're really excited about. And so what POP does in giving us plugin-oriented programming is it allows us to create software very, very quickly that solves a lot of fundamental software development problems. And so inside of POP, everything's a plugin. And so you start up an application, and there's 2 lines of code that get you into the plugin-oriented programming environment inside of POP. But once you're in there, everything is a plugin. And so what's great about that is that all of the code becomes hyper-modular. All of the code very natively is extensible. And it's very difficult, if you follow the paradigm at all, to create static code, which means that the paradigm itself encourages not just good software development structure, but it also gives you the keys to the creation of very good overall software architecture. Because I've rarely run into a software engineer who's been around who doesn't say that plugin and modular architectures are superior. And if we go back in time, even, we can go back to the 80s and discussions on microkernels. The consensus has almost always been that a pluggable modular software design is better. So POP gives you that out the gates. It allows you to write.
Tend to prefer customizing, right? Custom's typically better because you can make it what you need it to be, which is really the essence of Salt.
Right, because, when you have software that is pliable, then it's just better, because we all know that when you create software, you never know what it's going to be used for. Actually, a good parallel for this is to look at a company like IKEA. IKEA makes lots of stuff. And we all know that if you get some IKEA furniture, you can combine it and morph it into other things because of the simplicity of IKEA furniture. When we have simplicity in software, again, its applicability can become significantly wider. Again, that's what I'm trying to do with POP, is make it so that even entire software applications can be pluggable into each other. So when we come back and we look at POP, it's really easy to use. You can pip install POP, so all the normal Python rules apply. One of the things that we can do with POP is that it's really easy to get started. And so all you have to do is run a little program that comes with POP called pop create, and that will create the Python POP project for you and tell you exactly where to begin writing code. And at that point, you can just start writing plugins. And those plugins can make your code go. POP also gives you something that we call the hub, or the hierarchical namespace. This allows us to have...
Wait. the hub is the hierarchical what?
Namespace.
Namespace. I wanted it to be an HUB like acronym. So I'm a little sad now. That's fine.
So if I go back in time, Michael Steed, who's one of the SaltStack engineers, when I originally ran everything by him, he convinced me to name it the transitive object model.
What? The transitive object model.
Right, which means that every time you had to reference it, you had to type in Tom. I got rid of that. That was bad.
That's a little too much fun.
That didn't last very long. But yeah, the hub allows you to have a hierarchical namespace. This means that we can solve one of the really difficult problems of software engineering. This is a problem in software engineering that creates bugs in software that a lot of people overlook because it's so ingrained in how we think about software development. When we create objects inside of software, oftentimes we need to reference or call or read those objects from other locations in the code. And it can be very difficult to track those objects. And so that's where we get memory leaks and we lose track of where components are. We copy code components and we do things that are inefficient. To facilitate plugin-oriented programming, everything must exist in a hierarchical namespace, which means that all of the data that you save gets saved on this hub. And then it's saved in a namespace relative to your plugins. And when that happens, if you ever use too much memory, or if you ever need to read that information anywhere else in the application, it's always accessible. It's always available. And so that then allows you to create software that is significantly more memory safe, significantly more efficient, but also faster, easier to write, and again, more pluggable. And then we also in POP have the concept of app merging, which means that you can extend an application externally. This is great because one of the big challenges that people run into in software development is reviewing other people's code. Oftentimes what happens is you get an engineer who loves to write software, and they can crank out beautiful software all day long, and they love doing it, and then they get relegated to reviewing somebody else's code for the rest of their lives.
Not so much their thing.
I hate reviewing other people's code. I don't like doing it. And so I've had to review a lot of code with Salt. And what I wanted to be able to do was make it so that using POP, someone else can extend my software and it's their software to maintain. It's their software to extend. And then when their software matures in its own right, then when we distribute a piece of software, we can elect to bring in their plugins. This is how Linux works, for instance. We begin to have a Linux distribution, and it says a piece of software has a certain amount of applicability and use. Therefore, we're going to distribute it with our Linux distribution. But that also means that we don't allow someone to write an extension to a piece of software and then automatically bless it and say that it's more significant because of how it's been brought into the code, simply by including it in a more popular code base. And so this allows us to create software which can iterate and grow in what I would argue is a much more stable way. And not stable just in a software engineering way, but also stable in a community building way, and a communicative way. And it also allows us to build ecosystems out of our communities instead of simply having communities.
Oh, that's fantastic. And being able to build that, I think, is key, right? To being able to be successful with really any software, but Salt in particular, because that's what we care about. So that's what we're going to talk about. No, that's fantastic. We always love tapping into Tom's wisdom. And it's especially critical now that apparently you are geriatric. Have you heard this?
Sorry, I'm what?
Yeah. So now your grouping, and I think I barely missed it, is considered a geriatric millennial. Isn't that fantastic? So now we just even more so need to tap into your geriatric
I'm
wisdom.
an old millennial.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday and I could not wait to tell you.
Oh, that's terrible.
So thank you to our geriatric millennial for giving us all his wisdom. No, we love tapping into Tom's brilliance and learning so much more. Thanks again for making us a little smarter, Tom. And we will catch you all next time. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.